started with keto basically, and keto was a complete accident. And actually, I was on a high protein, low fat diet because I'd been fighting weight my whole life, and this was just one of many diets that I'd tried. But this was a high protein, low fat diet. I started in 2017, and I did that diet for 14 months, and it was the worst I've ever felt in my life. And I
Mm.
was pretty suicidal over it, actually. It was so bad. I couldn't stick to it anymore. I had never felt worse in my life. I never had less energy in my life than on this low fat, high protein, moderate carbohydrate weightlifter diet that I was on.
Mm.
And I was just doing that because I'd tried to, I felt like I'd tried everything else. I was like, I can't eat any more dry chicken. If I eat one more piece of dry chicken, I'm going to just, just not be able to, I'm going to fall off the wagon or do something, so I just can't do it. I looked up, how do I cook chicken without drying out the chicken? Because I thought that was my problem, because I couldn't put sauce on it. I couldn't put
Ugh.
seasonings on it. So it was just dried chicken breast every day for 14 months. So I looked up and it came up sous vide meat. So I bought a
Ah.
sous vide machine. I started watching these guys on YouTube called Sous Vide Everything, and they kept sous vide picanha and ribeyes.
Ah.
Oh, heck
And
yeah.
yeah, and I was I was drooling when I was watching them, and
Wow.
I was watching the channel to figure out how to use this thing when I got here, and it got here, and in my head I was like, before I go back to dry chicken, I'm gonna try one of these ribeyes, and that's why I was laughed
Mm.
because because I went to Costco and I didn't buy one ribeye, I bought four. You know? And
Oops.
so clearly I was not planning on only eating one ribeye, but that, then I talked myself into it. I reworked the macros and I was like, all right, if I just have one ribeye seared in butter like they do on sous vide everything, and I don't have the rice and my 100 grams of carbohydrates, and I kick that out, then I
Nice.
can, in the same calories, I can do this one ribeye if I just eat once a day.
Mhm.
And so
Oh.
I sous vide one ribeye and seared it in butter, and I ate that thing. And for the first time, I'd been doing this high protein, low fat, moderate carbohydrate diet for 14 months, and I'd lost 37 pounds. I couldn't hardly peel myself out of bed in the morning. I was tired and moody and starving all the time. I just had it just felt like I had low blood sugar all the time, just miserable. So I'd ate that one ribeye. I'm not even kidding you. Within maybe 6 hours, I felt the best I had felt in over 14 months. Like my mood lifted. The first time I didn't feel anxious and depressed. I felt good. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to eat these four ribeyes. I'm just going to do one a day. And then when they're gone, I'm going to go back to
To
my
the chicken
terrible
breast.
chicken breast diet. So I ate one of those every day for 4 days, and I end up losing 13 pounds, feeling the best I'd ever felt
What?
in that. Yeah, like it was amazing. And I had no idea why. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, I'm cheating right now. I'm doing terrible things right now that I'm not supposed to be doing on this diet. And I feel the best I've ever felt. I'd never heard of a ketogenic diet. I'd heard of Atkins. I thought that was crazy. So I didn't know
You'd
what
never
that
heard of
was.
carnivore before.
Never heard of carnivore or keto. And so I'm like, why did I just lose weight and feel good on eating ribeyes seared in butter, and the ketogenic diet popped up? And so that was kind of what started it. I started going down that road. Now, I wish that the carnivore diet would have popped up because then
But
I
this
would have
was
been,
2017, 2018.
if I would have just kept what I was doing and eating the ribeye, I would have been great. But instead, I dug into the keto diet, and it took me to truffles and fat bombs and MCT oils and all the keto junk food and the keto pastas and the keto bull crap. And I was on a roller coaster after that. The cravings were always there till
Vegetables were still there. Were you eating vegetables during that time?
Yeah.
oh yeah, I was eating so much kale and chard and spinach because that's what I was supposed to
Yeah.
do, and it was terrible, and I hated every bit of it. At the low fat diet, I was 632 pounds when I started the low fat
Mm.
high protein diet.
That you lost 30 pounds on for a year.
Yeah, I got just under 600 pounds after 14 months of misery, and that's why it was so pathetic, and I'm just like, what is going on? And I mean, I've been on well, I've been big all my life. When I was 14 years old, I weighed 600 pounds, and just most of it was from drinking calories, right? Because we just worked all the time. We didn't eat breakfast. We didn't really eat lunch. We would drink sodas and sugary coffees and stuff in the morning. And that's what I ran off all day. And then we'd come home and have some terrible, standard American diet, high carbohydrate, sugar junk dinner. eat that, go to bed, and do it all over again. That was just kind of my life. But most of my calories came in the form of energy drinks, soft drinks, and iced coffees and sweet teas and stuff like that. And that's what I just lived on. When I got to about 14, health started getting, the weight started getting out of control. So I started a long list of roller coaster diets, calorie restrictive diets. None of the calorie restrictive diets ever worked. The only thing that ever worked that everybody said was crazy was just not eating. Long fast is what I always did, because stopping eating for days or weeks or months was better than, eating a little bit and then you having your mind go crazy and being on this insulin roller coaster, which I didn't know what it was at the time. So I'd always start all these diets with the greatest intentions of following through, but they were maddening because they just made you starve and they just made you so miserable that I just would stop eating. I just quit. The whole time I knew it wasn't gonna last. It was just a temporary solution, but I figured, well, at least if I get the weight off, maybe I can hold it this time. Never did. I lost 300 pounds twice in my life, and I lost 200 pounds twice in my life and gained it all back. Both, all 4 times, and was sicker and gained it easier and harder to lose weight every time I did that.
So it's not like you were in lack of trying. You really tried.
That kind of weight makes your whole life miserable. I had to work,
right.
I was working construction, and your life is miserable when you weigh 5 and 6 and 700 pounds and you got to climb ladders and carry wire and can't, I got diagnosed with reactive airway disease when I was 18. Since I was 18 years old, I would get pneumonia or bronchitis every winter that would last not a week or two, but like 4 months at a time. Lay me in the hospital like 5 times, in my life, and twice was in the ICU because my oxygen was so low. Just on a normal day, on a good day, my oxygen saturation was only 88%. I couldn't get it above that, so I was always struggling for air. Lungs were always just a nightmare. And as I got older and the more times I lost weight and gained weight, air was always my problem. I'd always have asthma attacks or lung colds or bronchitis or pneumonia or something would always be pulling me down, and that would turn into infections. And it was just a nightmare most of my life that way.
So how long were you keto, and then how did you transition into carnivore?
I was keto for 2 years, and it was a roller coaster thing. I would do good. I'd lose, 60 pounds, 70 pounds, and then I would get into keto junk and I'd fall off the wagon and back and forth because I never got rid of the cravings. And it was 2021 when it all kind of came off the rails because I got COVID. And when I got COVID, I was not in a good spot. One night, something bad happened, and I'd stopped breathing for, I guess, a long time. Because when I woke up, I didn't know where I was. My head was split wide open, and I thought I had a stroke. I couldn't hardly speak. I couldn't recall words. So I was like, all right, that's it. I had to call the ambulance. 7 firefighters there to get me into the ambulance, and it was miserable. I was in the ICU for 11 days, and they pulled off 84 pounds of fluid off me. They signed me up to see a heart specialist, and they signed me up to see a lung specialist, and they signed me up. They signed me up for 20 different tests that I had to go. Now my whole life was going to be about going to specialists, going and getting these tests. I didn't want to do any of it. My dad did stuff like this his whole life because he had gotten hit with Agent Orange, and I'd never seen any of this make anybody better ever my whole life. And I was just like, this is not for me. So when I got back, I was like, somehow, some way, I got to get back to where things were making a difference when I was just eating the ribeyes. Like that was when I started thinking
How
about
long
it.
did you do that? Oh, that was just 4 days because you only had 4 ribeyes.
Yep. Just 4 days.
Wow.
Yep.
What an important 4 days in your life.
It was. I was like, I got to get back to that. I was just reaching back to the last benchmark where I felt good. And so I was just down to eggs and ground beef is what I was eating. And it wasn't until I was like, can I just eat eggs and beef and be fine? And it was like, yeah, carnivore diet. And that's where it came up. Basically where I started learning about carnivore. I'm like, well, if strict keto is carnivore plus lettuce, and I cannot eat the lettuce by going carnivore, why the heck would anybody do keto? Strict keto. Like, who wants
we
the
don't
lettuce?
know. We're not sure.
But I still had one terrible problem, and that was diet soda and diet energy drink. Splenda or whatever the sweeteners. What is that stuff? Stevia.
The sweeteners and the stevia were keeping you out of ketosis.
Absolutely was.
But you weren't fasting at all, like 18-6 or anything like that.
I was having such bad cravings that I decided to do a 40-day water fast.
Oh,
And
damn.
Oh.
yeah, and I did it wrong. I was drinking water to satiate my hunger cravings or whatever
Oh, you
while
were
I was
just
on this fast.
dousing out your hunger
White
and
knuckling
peeing,
it.
getting your electrolytes all goofed up.
Yeah, and I lost
Yeah,
all
just
the
doing it.
potassium, so low on potassium that it actually dropped my red blood cell count. My red blood cell platelets were so low that my oxygen had tanked. And I had a asthma attack from low potassium. So that was my only fasting at that time. 21 days of a, of a really bad fast that I'd done.
I'm not sure at what point you joined SBG. Lindy was involved in SBG from the start. That's where she found Bella, she found Raymond, she found me, and just became this super team for a couple of years now. And now you're part of this. I want to hear about your journey with that too.
I don't know how Lindy saw my video, but she had commented on it and I was dumbfounded. I was like, there's another person that weighed, 800 pounds. And
That's
well,
right. Lindy
this is
started
awesome.
it right about that 800-pound point. Wow.
Yeah, it was incredible. And so I'm like, all right, we got to talk because this is fantastic, and she's, a little bit older than me. And in my head, I was like, I'm too old for this to work. I'm too big for this to work.
At 40
Right.
years old.
This was hopeful, right? That,
Mhm.
that all of my excuses that I thought this wouldn't work, she had kind of taken them away. And then I was talking to Lindy and I had never heard the term priming before in my life. What the heck are you talking about? Because why would you want to eat more? I'm trying to lose weight. At this point, it came up to about 9 months, and I hadn't lost any weight since about the 7 month mark. And what was happening is I was getting low energy. I was having a hard time sleeping. I
On
was
carnivore.
on carnivore, but I was only eating 1,700 calories a day. I was eating about a pound of steak a day, and usually it wasn't even ribeye. It was at the time it was sirloin or strip loin, and I would eat about 1,700 calories a day because I wasn't losing weight. So I went from eating about 2,800 to 3,200 calories when I was first trying to shove all the bacon and eggs and stuff in, and so somewhere between under eating and doing OMAD for 9 months, I was not in a good spot. Now, all of a sudden, I was low energy, couldn't sleep, grumpy. My brain wasn't working, feeling weak. I felt like I was going backwards. And then Lindy was talking about priming, and I'd had two instances where I was ravenous one day for meat, and I ended up eating 6 T-bones in a day. And I thought I was going off the rails. I thought I was real worried that, oh, okay, I'm starting to binge eat or something. I'm going to go backwards and I'm going to lose all this. And so I was nervous that I was doing something wrong, but the hunger was so bad. And after fighting it for 2 or 3 days, I was like, look, at least it's craving meat. I'm not craving junk. At least
That's
it's
right.
craving meat. So I just opened it up and I ate 6 T-bones that day and 6 T-bones the next day. By the end of that week, I'd actually lost like 6.5 pounds. And I was like, and I felt better. I felt a lot better. And I was talking to Lindy and she's like, well, you're not eating enough. And you need to prime. So I was like, that's it. I'm joining this SBG people and see what's going on over here. And that was when I came in to see what you guys were talking about. And then it all started making sense. And I was like, oh, okay. That started ringing a bell. And that was when I got a hold of Raymond. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And yeah, then I hated your guts for about 5 weeks because I'd never been so full in my life.
Priming on the carnivore diet is a 2 to 3 week long period of time where the person prioritizes eating 3 meals every day. It preps the body to really reap the full benefits and healing of intermittent fasting and extended fasting. Coach Raymond and Coach Emily have an entire 90-day priming, feasting, and fasting plan, tried and tested on thousands of carnivores now. One of the best benefits, of course, is fat loss and body recomposition, and we see it in our members of all ages. Both men and women see their bodies transform, lose fat, lose inflammation, and get stronger. This is Lindy, who has lost 500 pounds just by priming and basic intermittent fasting. If you'd like to join the Steak and Butter Gang community to get support, accountability, and to work with Coach Raymond and Coach Emily, you can go to the URL shown on the screen, sbgmeetup.com, or check out the links down below in the description box.
So Todd, what benefit do you feel like you really got from priming? And then we'll go into, I'd like to hear the fasting part.
The priming's been crazy. So first and foremost is just strength. I am so much stronger. 12 and a half months ago, I couldn't stand for 90 seconds. Now, I I bought a new Rogue weightlifting bench and it was like 200 pounds and I could throw that thing around with one hand and not get, bent over, throwing it around, bolting it together, not losing any energy whatsoever. I mean,
You're jump roping To
jump
me, that
roping.
says it all.
I'm doing the hit axle. Like
Oh.
if you don't know what the hit axle is, look that up. I'm not making it look easy, but I'm doing it. And so that's pretty awesome. I know me 12 months ago, if you said, look at me, I'm working out and I lost all this weight, I would turn you off because I'd be like, I can't walk. I can't breathe right now. I don't want to hear about how I need to go work out. Let me make this very clear. I didn't lose any weight by working out, but
Right.
my body healed through priming. And now I have this excess energy and this health and this strength that I want to work out now. Like my
Yes.
body craves it now. So I'm not telling you because I'm saying that you need to work out to lose weight. What I'm telling you is that priming healed me. And now as a benefit, I get to work out,
That's
and I
right.
can, and it's quite amazing. My hair's been gone for 22 years. I never thought it would ever come back. And now it's growing back like crazy. And my eyebrows, I'll try to find some old pictures, but my eyebrows used to be bald from here to here. This was all gone. This all grew back on Carnivore. But I didn't know that your eyebrows falling out were from insulin resistance.